Yo, happy Thursday, everybody. Adam, you feeling bellish today?
So bellish. Top of the news, though, is Counterparty 2.0. We got to touch on that for a minute for sure. Just see what's going on. I was watching a little bit in the Telegram chat. Looks like they had a little issue with whatever their APIs or whatever went down for a bit. Not Counterparty, but the supporting infrastructure wasn't functioning quite great at the start, which is honestly to be completely
It's
expected.
not a successful launch unless something breaks.
Bro, it always breaks. I mean, you can imagine, and that's why I'd love to talk to Dan about the mint, because I know there was going to be some mint, a fair launch mint happening kind of concurrently with it. So I'm imagining users were bombing the servers. But Dan, can you give us the TLDR on what happened, man?
Hello. Sure. Last night, the activation block for a new, several new features on Counterparty was hit. The founders have been working on Counterparty for the last, 6 to 8 months, doing a lot of really foundational tech debt removal and no protocol changes. And then last night were the first few protocol changes. The main things being the ability to fair mint, which is just a new way to issue a counterparty asset. It would look a lot like a BRC20 mint, I think. if you want to have like a mental model for it, like that's an option.
Yep.
Another option, which makes it different from other ways of minting that I think is yet to be explored, is like you can declare if you burn XCP, you can get this token. You can also set up a mint where somebody gathers all the XCP that you pay to get the coin, potentially funding a project. And also, there's like a little potentially an ability to get a commission where like I, as the creator of this, will get 1% of every mint or something like this. There's different models that it's opened up that we haven't explored yet. I think is interesting. And so last night I created mints. It's called a fair mint in the code. So I happen to own the asset mints, and I was like, this is just perfect. So I'll get this in there and try to be first. And I think I was the only one running my own node to do that.
So like the supply of that, does it have to have a counterparty asset at the same how does it work? You're saying you had mints before, so you had that named asset before. Does it have to have that to have the mint? Like how does that kind of function?
It's flexible. So like if you happen to own an asset and you have like all of the supply, you can use that to declare a new mint. If there's like existing supply, it's considered like the pre-mine. If it's got an issuance of 0, which might happen to have 0, then it's fine. But you can either issue a new asset through the mint or use an existing one, assuming you have all the supply. That's one of the things with Counterparty that's nice is like there's like asset management, whereas with something like a Rune or a BRC20 or any other kind of thing like that, you sort of like create a transaction, it exists, and if you screwed up or it's not exactly how you want, you're sort of like stuck with it. Whereas with Counterparty, there's a lot more asset management available.
And I also saw that you posted yesterday that Bitcoin was the first, first token to attach to a UTXO. I have 2 questions around this. One regarding the fair mint. So when you're doing a fair mint, are these tokens automatically attached to UTXO, or do users have to do this manually?
No. So the way I think about it is like these new features are just extending Counterparty in its normal account-based model. But if you have a balance, one of the new features is you can attach. You can say, I want to take this amount of this balance and attach it to a UTXO. And you can also detach it later. So I think of it a little bit like, to me, it looks like how with Emblem vaults, we were bridged sort of like into Ethereum liquidity. I look at this as a way to sort of like bridge Counterparty into like the wider Bitcoin liquidity that is focused on partially signed Bitcoin transactions. Because once you have done that, like then you can like the wallets and services that are focused on that model potentially support it easier. But I do think the best way to use Counterparty is still the account-based method.
Yeah, I do agree that it's that is pretty bullish. It's like now with Emblem, you're essentially attaching the Counterparty token to an ERC-721 or 1155. Here, you get to attach it to a PSBT, so that can be listed on these marketplaces. And I think the framing of tapping into the the Bitcoin liquidity, I think, is the right method. Could you describe then what exactly is the method here? Is there like a bridge? Do you have to do this with a node? Is there like an interface to be able to attach it?
So I don't know if there's any interfaces yet. I just did it by using the API. There's like an API that where you can compose a raw transaction of any type, and then you just have to be able to sign it. And so that's like the thing that like wallets usually like abstract away from you, and people are working on those. But in the meantime, I just did it manually. But you're just creating a transaction where in the data of the transaction, you indicate like this address, this quantity, and then the transaction, pardon me, includes that UTXO and basically colors that UTXO in the system. And the Counterparty database has been extended to have like an optional UTXO sort of like field on balances.
Interesting. Dogfather, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question for Dan. Hey, what's going on? I mean, that sounds pretty much like what JDog was doing with BTNS, but he already had some kind of like implementation into Free Wallet and other wallets where you use the broadcasting function. So that was kind of like more a level playing field for everyone. And right now it looks like now you have these new tokens, but only a handful of those people running a federal node could actually, deploy and mint tokens. I mean, is that right, or am I missing anything?
I would say they're different. I think the way I look at this is like when ordinals and inscriptions were launched, I think the thing that people really like about these systems is like they're looking for attention or distribution, and whenever they see a way to like get distribution in this like attention economy, they go for it. And so that BRC20 sort of like took a ride on ordinals inscriptions. And then on Counterparty, SRC20 sort of did a similar thing, and Buttons is doing a similar thing, where they're not like at the lowest level of the protocol. They're sort of just doing something on their own that's not like supported necessarily. So I think they're different in that like this new minting is like native core, like part of the ledger, and like the system is set up to like be aware of it, whereas like the system's not set up to be aware of Buttons or SRC20 things. And then in terms of like only node operators can do it or something like that, like that's the case right now. I'm working on something that makes it easier to mint, but like that is what it is. And there's only one.
How does it feel being in the
Literally
cabal?
the only one that's managed to mint so far.
Yeah, if you're pulled up on the live stream that's pinned to the top if anyone wants to watch, I have the Horizon Explorer pulled up, which is the Explorer that's built by Adam Krellenstein and the development team. You can see here all of the recent issuances and mints is, I've been trying to go back to see as far as I can, and there's got to be at least a few thousand of these mints happening across multiple wallets, and it actually labels it as a fair mint on here, which is pretty cool.
Well, that's just I think that's like the name of the function. It's called fair mint. And that's maybe a good demonstration actually of Dogfather of like the difference. Like these transactions are like registering as issuing quantity within the actual native protocol. And if you were check out xcp.io, this is an explorer that I've been working on for the last 6 to 8 months. It's not fully like complete, so like you might run into like errors right now. But I think it's okay to share with this group here. But if you went to xcp.io, there's like a mint option in the top.
Yep, I found it.
And there's a drop down.
Mm-hmm.
And it should load sort of like the progress of the mint.
Let's see. Yep. Yeah. So it says, 4.84% mint. So 4,839 mints total.
Yeah. So this one has like 100,000 mints because I figured it would take time for people to like figure it out, and it would maybe make it more fair to have like a longer mint out period. And then this tool, I'm working on this tool now. There's like some sort of cores issue that's happening with the API that like is preventing it from working how I want. But you know, my intention is to like get these tools out soon.
Yeah, you did a good job with this website. Also appreciate you for creating the Emblem Vault and Counterparty Dune analytic dashboards. Those also come in handy a lot.
Check out I'm not just to like drive your cursor or whatever, but like check out the collect tab.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is sort of like stats for all the different collections in Counterparty, and you can look at like 7-day, 30-day, a year, all time. You can look at overall. You can look at just the DEX. You could look at just ETH, which would be only Emblem Vaults, basically, right?
Mm-hmm. No, this is great. This is a great tool.
And then if you look at the trade page, I sort of have like a top 100 runes Match Geeden page knockoff.
Nice. So what do you give us an idea of? Okay, I'm gonna mint one of your mints one right
Mhm.
now. What's kind of
Yep.
cost in dollar terms? What's it gonna run right now for somebody to do that?
So I was just picking like, I was just looking at different parameters, and initially I was going to do the order parameters where you do one transaction, you get 1,000, and then it mints out at 21 million. But I made it where per transaction you get 1,000 and it mints out at 100 million. And like I said, that's largely just to not ensure, but to hopefully get a larger distribution if possible.
So, but what's it costing as far as the Bitcoin transaction to minting? Right?
I think, well, it depends on the fee you pay, of course, but like if the fees are like 10 sats per VByte, I think it's 5 to 10, maybe like $2 to $3, maybe, I forget.
Okay.
Sorry, it's I'm not on a screen, so I would tell you clear if I was on a screen, but
I guess
it's not a lot.
I guess the bigger question is it cheaper to mint on Counterparty than it is to inscribe an ordinal? Or do you know?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay. Yeah, because it's account based, not embedding data. Dude, this website is great.
I was mints right at 1,000 sats.
Wow, I can't believe. So this is pretty cool. It shows like by asset on Counterparty what's trading. I didn't realize XCP is up to almost a $25 million market cap.
Yeah, it depends on like what you're using as the last price. Like the dispensers tend to be a little bit higher than these centralized exchanges, but the centralized exchanges that we have are like, they're really low volume, and a lot of times it's just like volume bots just trying to like keep listed, and they're just passing money at like low rates basically.
Wow. Yeah, XCP.
But if you were to try to acquire a position in Counterparty, like it's difficult.
Yeah, it is pretty difficult. We've tried actually. That and Pepe Cash seem to be like the two toughest things to get anybody to sell. But good job. Final question here, just in terms of Counterparty and fermenting. From the community standpoint, have you seen any discussions on any type of projects that people are discussing, or any type of unique use cases that will leverage Counterparty 2.0?
I think the use case I'm most excited about is the minting feature, and specifically the ability to mint with XCP as the token. Because once you do that, you're working now within the protocol where like you can escrow and do basically smart contracts. For like lack of a better word, it's not a word that I think it's a very loaded word, but basically what you could do with this new minting feature is you can say, we're gonna do a mint. It's gonna be like 1 XCP per mint, and there's gonna be a hard cap, but there's also gonna be a soft cap. So if we don't get 10,000 mints or 20,000 mints, or basically if we don't get a critical threshold after, let's say, a month, everyone's going to get their funds back from the protocol.
Interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
And what I like about this is, we have to kind of like figure out what those parameters are, but it's kind of like a pump.fund situation where like if you get to 60,000, you get like put onto this exchange or something, right? It's not exactly like that, but you could have a threshold maybe that arises in the community where it's like, if something gets to like 10,000 counterparty committed, then like people actually want that, and like let's send that. And if not, like I can think of it as like mining for the best meme coin. And the only risk is that you lock up. Well, there's risk, obviously, not the only risk, but you basically lock up some XCP. If it doesn't get to critical mass, it just comes back to you. You sort of like loaned the protocol your money in that time.
That's interesting. My concern is that people just don't want to get, and it's a pain in the ass to try and get XCP, right? It's like people just aren't, regular users aren't going to take that step.
Yeah, I'm super. I think things can radically change. I think they are changing. I remember like Ordinal's day zero where like there was nothing, and then there just happened to be a number of people building on like Stacks or whatever with VC money that needed a source of growth, or other networks, and it just timing wise worked out. And all of a sudden, presto, you have a thing. So I think things could change rapidly, and I do think it starts this way. Like it's such an organic platform. It's been around for so long. To have it technically improve is great. If we can get some more organic usage, that's great. But hopefully from the stats that I'm starting to bring with the collect of the trade page, you can see it's not zero. It's not like 100 million in volume, but we have definitely millions in volume. In the last week, we're talking about $500,000 in volume. So these things could grow easily, and because in the fact that they're small, I think people can see that probably as opportunity.
Yeah, I know from behind the scenes, I know there's funds that are looking to acquire XCP. So there is general interest outside of just, retail traders. And having, it'll definitely need like a winning use case or winning app. That's always what kind of onboards everybody. But also I think the advantage that the counterparty community has is that it's also multi-chain, right? Using Emblem Vault, they've also used different types of protocols to trade. And so the community is just a little more based, I would say, than anyone else. And I think that gives it a supreme advantage because it allows the community to build things through a perspective that a lot of these other kind of tribalistic communities do not possess.
Let me just talk my shit one more minute and then I'll shut up. With the thing that I like about the founders coming back is that they've got, in their field of view, like in their prioritization list, the tokenomics is like a big part of it, and so like the changes that are being made are to improve the tokenomics of XCP. So, for example, this ability to attach to a UTXO, that doesn't require XCP unless a lot of people are doing it, and then it starts to cost a little XCP, and then if a lot of people are doing it, it costs a little bit more XCP, and so it starts to behave like a gas. So that's like one thing. And Counterparty has used XCP as a gas in a number of ways already, like with dividends or sweeps, or with issuances. And so it's just they're working on making it more of a gas. And then the mint thing that I talked about, where you burn XCP or you collect XCP, like that's another way to like make it a gas. So there's these like circular economy style things that could happen with those features. And then the other thing, sorry, I'm holding a baby.
But don't you think, I mean, just on that point though, don't you find that favors people who hold XCP and favors the early kind of adopters? But don't you think that's like a turnoff to new adopters?
Sure, yeah, but
you have a bunch of big whales holding all the supply, and it's like, well, I got to figure out. First of all, I got to figure out how to get it, and then yeah, it's rewarding basically the early adopters, which I totally get. But new adopters don't give a shit about the old the OGs, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's always been that way. I think that basically I look at Counterparty as like a new thing just because the number of users is small. So like if relative to like 0 or versus like 100 million, it's closer to, it might as well round to 0. So
right.
I think that's like one way to look at it. So like, everything old is new again. The last thing I was mentioning before I get off is that one of the founders are also talking about like one of the things that we can do with the XCP supply, which is like 2.6 million. And I think right now that coin is like $10. They're talking about doing a stock split where everyone's balances are multiplied by 100 or 1,000 just to get the supply more in line with like what people expect. I think that could be a catalyst. But I don't know, Adam. It's an argument you can like make against almost anything. I think like people were here before other people, and yeah, you can levy that against anything. I think.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with Bitcoin, even, right? You have
Oh,
all
yeah.
these people holding Bitcoin. That's why the normies, quote unquote normies, or new people are just trading meme coins because they don't want to participate in that idea.
What I'm excited, what I see happening is like Counterparty has always been good at tune. Basically, Counterparty always has been what inscriptions and runes are now. Like Casey's just been feverishly rebuilding Counterparty under a different method. It's got a nice algorithm underneath it, and versus Counterparty, but primarily they do very similar things. And Counterparty's found its niche with NFTs, some of the first, earliest, most based NFTs. But it has all these great like DeFi features. And I think with the minting and with the devs coming back, the founders, and they're focused on the right things, and just like seeing, you know, what's happening on Solana and things like this, they're going to build the tools and that make sense, and it also the tools that Bitcoin natively can't do. Like for example, on the roadmap are things like automate the AMMs and LPs. So imagine you just have like, Pepe Cash XCP liquidity pool, and native to the protocol is like these automatic market makers. I think if you had that on Counterparty mixed with minting, mixed with the history, mixed with the memes, like I think it looks like a nice little swirling tornado.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree. I agree as well. We were having this conversation a little bit yesterday that, you know, Counterparty is essentially runes and ordinals combined, but it's on the account-based model. So I'm the most thing that I'm most interested in is just seeing what the winning kind of use case is. It seems like DeFi tends to be where a lot of people are leaning towards, and with the fair minter, I think there's some opportunity there. I do know you also have the stamps community that's also leveraged in the Counterparty community, so you're getting kind of 2 in 1 there, for a handful of different opportunities.
Yeah, well, thanks for bringing me up, guys. I mean, hopefully that touched on some of it. I'm not like, I mean, I'm deep in it. Like I've got this website I'm working on. I've been working on Counterparty a long time. I just want to like re-win 2018. Basically, is how I think about it.
Hey, we're big supporters. Emblem's a big supporter, and we've been looking into all kinds of ideas of how we can support, you know, Counterparty 2.0 as well. So, Dogfolly, do you have a question?
Not a question for Dan. So because he's holding the baby, the time is precious. More so to the Emblem Vault team, so to you guys. So can you give him an update on the PSBT thing into Counterparty? Probably I missed that in one of the last spaces. I mean, is that already kind of like implemented and working? So could we have, because I think Nish or someone else was posting a picture on post where we had a Magic Eden marketplace with the Space of Genesis cards. I mean, is that technically working already, or is it still in the making?
So I guess this is a little bit of alpha, but we're talking with a few developers that are proficient in building PSBT marketplaces to see how difficult it is. And so we've had some early conversations on it. It's not something that's straightforward. There's a few kind of mechanisms that have to be figured out in terms of, you know, the bridging and building construction, but it is something that we're looking into. I know Shaban is also building their marketplace. Although I don't think he had the PSBT component, at least from what I've seen from his conversations. And then Adam Krellenstein mentioned in a recent podcast that Horizon may be building a marketplace as well. And then on the last front, I saw a few of the Counterparty guys talking to, I think his name's Jack, the founder of Magic Eden, and to add support for stamps and Counterparty. And they said that they needed more market data to determine to support, because I guess they have like a 5 or 6 different protocols that they're going to be adding over the next 3 to 6 months or so. So that's the status in terms of trading. There could be other marketplaces out there building, but I haven't really heard any.
All right, cool. I mean, why do you need a bridge if it's on natively on Bitcoin? Do you think like bridging Counterparty assets, or I mean to the mainnet, or just translating somehow that let's say if you have an ordinals marketplace and PSBTs and all that, do you think that you need to have kind of like the federal node, the counterparty federal node integrated, or what do you mean with bridging?
Yeah, so I guess, even Dan said it right. Counterparty now basically has two different types of bridges. You could basically bridge to Ethereum using Emblem Vault and then all of the other chains that we're going to be adding, or you could bridge to this Bitcoin liquidity market, which is the PSBT markets, which is where ordinals trade and some of these other ones, I think like Tap and some of the other ones. So you essentially have two different types of bridges. So from our perspective, or at least the people I've talked with, figuring out how to pick up those, I guess you call it freshly minted PSBT or freshly attached UTXOs, is something that we're looking into. And then how that interacts with building PSBT construction. Personally, it's something that I'm just kind of learning as I have these conversations. And I guess once you have the PSBTs, then it's pretty similar to trading like ordinals, but on the back end there's a few nuances to it.
Does that make sense?
Does that make sense, or did I answer your question?
I mean, as
yeah
far as,
so
go ahead, man.
Yeah, I get it. So basically the current ordinal marketplaces, they need to somehow speak to the counterparty nodes, because they need to know what kind of wallet holds what kind of asset. And I think it's also like, because it's typically not on Taproot addresses, it's like on other address types. I think that may be another kind of complication, right?
Yep. And then one of the main things as well is that there currently isn't a web extension wallet that supports counterparty. So even if there is something to trade, right, like there's no Xverse or Leather wallet or whoever wants to pick it up. You do have Horizon wallet, but it's a web wallet, so it doesn't really interact with different types of marketplaces. You can't really connect to new marketplaces. So even if there was a PSBT construction, unless somebody's building a wallet in silence, there currently is no way to trade these because there's no wallet that supports it. So, but either way, I guess final kind of comment on this is, you have people like Dan who are experimenting. You obviously have the OGs and different type of use cases. It'll probably, in my guess, 6 to 12 months, you'll probably see a marketplace and a wallet pop up in the next, maybe 2 to 3 months, maybe by the end of the year. And then throughout 2025, maybe we'll see a few different applications, right? Or it goes complete opposite. No one cares, which is always, which is always possible. I don't think so.
Counterparty's gonna miss another fucking bull run. Dan, get your shit together, man, over there.
Ultimately, kind of my prediction is that I think like Rare Pepes and Spells of Genesis and the historic assets will continue to trade through Emblem Vault, and then you'll see a lot of the newer assets go trade on the PSBT marketplaces to access kind of the Bitcoin liquidity, just because Ethereum has more dense liquidity to support, Rare Pepe, that's like a $500 million market cap. It'd be tough, although you probably could get OTC deals, but I do think a lot of the newer stuff will probably transition natively if the infrastructure supports it. But that's why we play the game, right? So without that was exciting conversation. It is really cool to see it. Also, I guess one other final point here. Now that you can, essentially bridge, your counterparty asset to Bitcoin liquidity or Ethereum liquidity or, Solana or whatever, when we deploy there, this opens up a lot of arbitrage opportunities for traders, and arbitrage traders bring a lot more liquidity to the market. It actually creates more efficient markets. So you'll probably see a lot more trading activity and people figuring out how to arb this stuff back and forth throughout 2025, which is bullish. That's things that you do want. Maybe, it sucks for some of the traders who are currently in the market who can identify that arb, but we'll see how that goes. And without further ado, Adam, take us off to the Bellscoin section, where it is currently up. I think it was up like 15% today to almost $1.20.
Wow. I don't know. Maybe it was the space. We did a big space yesterday. Bitmain helped set it up with the Litecoin Foundation. And I guess it's like some, ETH Classic they have like a big DAO, and so we had a big space. Obviously, that spread the word a lot. I think the OpCat, news tried to get Yar on, but he wasn't hitting me back, so no Yar today. So we can't get the kind of technical update. But I think OPCat going live on Testnet is a really nice step. It's going to be they've already set a block height for it, which is at basically the start of next year for the launch on mainnet for OPCat. That may change though, as far as my understanding goes. So that may change going forward, that specific date. But I think that's really exciting. And certainly I've had a bunch of chats already with, people who are building on Fractal to, bring their project over to Bells. I think that's something where, is definitely going to happen, and pretty excited to see when that actually occurs and what can happen, maybe learn a little bit from what happens on Fractal and see the winners, and maybe be able to pick some winners out, bring them over to Bells. And it's just very obvious. I can't talk about so many of these conversations I'm having in private, but there's a lot of just really, it's crazy, dude. I can't express how, like, I'm getting contacted. I'm like, what, how are you contacting? Why are you contacting me? Which is really, I mean, it's really special in that way. There's a lot of interest in Bells from corners that you wouldn't necessarily think of.
Yeah, the fact that the ETC Ethereum Classic was even still around and that they have a DAO, I thought was kind of funny. I've here pulled up on the live stream. So Zach Sway, who's community member, he put a little bit of a synopsis. Can you hear that in the background by chance?
It's kind of like what is that?
Yeah, I think there's like construction in my back, like next to me. Okay.
No.
He did a little bit of a review on the spaces. So for those that didn't listen, I didn't listen. Basically says that Bitmain Tech is bullish on the script ecosystem. They encourage everyone to hold their own coins. There's something called QED protocol. I don't know, Adam, if you're on that call, you said it says they're releasing testnet for Dogecoin, that it will include Groth 16 Verify, which is ZK proofs.
Yeah. So that guy, I was there only for half the show because I had to come to this show yesterday, but yeah, so that guy's working on the ZKs, right? And
so ZKs for Dogecoin.
And they're on testnet, or will be on testnet soon for Dogecoin. And so, yeah, I'm talking about with him about doing it on Bells. Definitely leaning into that. And I know Yar is real bullish on doing that. Honestly, to be honest, I don't really exactly know what that all means. Like L2s on Bells. I don't know what ZKs really are, but let's run it, man. So yeah, that is actually live on testnet right now too. So if you are a dev and want to experiment, play around in there. Yeah.
Exciting. Yeah, he's I guess the founder of the QED protocol says that he believes UTXO chains is a perfect fit to implement ZK EVM. So take some of the ZK EVMs from Ethereum and basically fork them and build them on top of Dogecoin and maybe Bellscoin. Yep. The Litecoin Foundation submitted the ETF. We did talk about that yesterday, which was pretty cool. And then obviously Bellscoin already has Groth 16 Verify, and that it will drive more devs to Bells DApp development. So that is pretty bullish.
Yeah, I don't know what I can talk about exactly.
Well, I know what I can talk about is that
you can talk about. Yeah, go ahead.
we've been working with Graham Bells over the last 2 weeks, testing out VBells, which is the first native application built on top of Emblem Vault, which is exciting for us as well to show that there's new use cases. So I've successfully vaulted 5,000 bells. So I have 5,000 VBells and spread them up across different types of vaults. And then I also successfully tested the redemption. So you can redeem your VBells for a Bellscoin vault, which then you open up and get the assets inside. So I guess you could say the bridge in, bridge out method is successful. I think there's a few refreshing kind of back-end UX changes that are coming. And then I'm going to initialize the LP pool. I think Emblem is going to contribute 10K to the LP pool to initialize it. And there's a handful of other developers or a handful of other community members who have said that they also want to LP. I think our goal is to get like 40 to 50K initialized before we, post the contract and people just start aping it.
Yeah.
We'll be interested to see, how many people actually do vault, if there is interest. For me, it's like getting an Ethereum listing, right? Is kind of like the idea here. Like when people say, when you get listed on Binance, right? It's like, oh, I get to open we get to open the market up to the Asian market, essentially.
Yeah.
Here it's like we get to open it up to the on-chain economy. And then as Bells grows, I think the goal would be for the community, and for us, I guess, to some degree, get VBells listed on things like Aave, right? Things on Compound, all these kind of DeFi platforms to where you can actually contribute a meaningful amount. Bells would probably need to be like 500 million or more for, I think, Aave to pick it up. But that to me is like the most bullish, is getting Bells heavily integrated into Ethereum DeFi ecosystem, because that's by far the leading kind of DeFi ecosystem, like by far.
One question, like setting up liquidity pools. I've never done anything like that before. And maybe somebody in the audience is better suited to answer this sort of question. But like for example, okay, Emblem Vault puts in, 10K to begin seeding the liquidity pool. If other people don't immediately also seed the liquidity pool and get it up to like a substantial size, 50, 60K or whatever, is that liquidity pool at risk of being drained when it's small? Like, how does that work? Like,
so I've actually set up a few before, back when LPs were just starting, showing my age in the industry. And yeah, so there's a few components here. So basically when you initialize an LP pool, you set the price, whoever's the first one to do it. And the way to set the price is X amount of VBells per ETH. So yesterday it was at $1, it was essentially 2,500 VBells or 2,600 VBells per ETH. Now it's shot up a little bit, so now it's a little bit down. So it'll be probably 2,300 VBells per ETH. So I set that up at the price, and then I actually have to set up the LP range because it's a V3 pool, and that's just for us who's LPing it. And then from the users, they could come in and then LP, and it's based off of what the market then is determining. What a lot of time what happens is generally the excitement is really high. So people come in, and even though there's 10K in liquidity or 20K, they'll come in and they'll buy $5,000 worth, and it'll just shoot the price up really high. And then there's really no sell pressure, right? Because there's not that much. So then people have to come in and bridge using Televault to then sell into the liquidity to then start initializing it. So you do see a lot of swings happening. Generally, when people get drained, when the LP gets drained, is because they initialize it wrong. Like they do it backwards, or instead of doing, right, just for simple math, if Bells is $1, right, then you want to do, again, if ETH is 2,600, it's one VBell, or it's 2,600 Bell per ETH. But people will mess that number up, and sometimes they'll flip it or something like that, and then it just gets drained.
Per bell.
Yeah, right. It's like 1 ETH per bell or something, and then the MEV people come in and they just drain it immediately.
Gotcha. Inu, I see you on stage. Do you have any experience? I know you're a miner, but do you have any experience with liquidity pools and stuff like that?
Yes.
Tell me.
There's Uniswap V2, and then there's Uniswap V3. I don't remember I haven't been updated if there's Uniswap V4 yet, but basically like V2 is what everyone kind of understands as, like a liquidity pool. Like most of the coins in Pump Fund, for example, the way they do is sort of akin to Uniswap V2. Whereas V3 is akin to Solana CPMM or whatever, which is like a tight band, concentrated liquidity, which kind of tries to make the price more stable by reducing the range that you put the liquidity for, yada, yada. But basically, like liquidity pools. The price goes up if you buy it, the price goes down if you sell it. Pools don't really get drained unless things are wrong, I would generally say. But if the liquidity is too what's it called? If the liquidity is too low, the price swings are too high, and when the price swings are too high, especially on Ethereum, you can get sandwich botted and you get drained. Like not the liquidity pool gets drained, but like the user gets drained by these bots, assuming that you have a stupid amount of slippage that you shouldn't have.
Gotcha.
So yeah, but like generally it should be pretty easy, I think. And then like for one single coin, you can actually have multiple like V2 pools and V3 pools as well. Whoever like V3 is crazy. I would say it's like I was looking into it for a while. It is like no one. I'd say like less than 1% of the people actually understand what V3, like the power of V3. But mostly it's just like because the range of V2 is 0 to infinity. It's kind of like, you set it once and it's done, but like V3, instead of putting 0 in infinity, you put it at a tighter band so that you get more quote unquote LP fees, but also at the same time, it helps make the price more stable, which is either good or bad depending on what you want to do.
Right. Yeah, it's a meme. You don't want a stable price. There's nothing worse than a stable price.
Yeah, the V3 also it reduces impermanent loss. And if you're somebody who just like sets it and forgets it with V3, if you have the tight band, whenever it leaves the tight band of that LP, then you basically just get paid out in whatever side the token is moving in. If the price is spiked to the upwards, then you just get the total amount in ETH, where if it gets sold, then you have that, and it basically goes to 0, then you get that total amount in the native token.
I think impermanent loss is like sort of a myth. But what V3 does is like, for example, if I set it so that I start bells at $1 and my band is 1 to 5, if bells goes to say 0.5, my entire position of LP would just be in bells. Whereas if it goes above say $5, it goes to like $6 or $7, my entire LP would be in ETH or USD. So when you're supplying LP, you're supplying liquidity. You're basically like a robot that's forced to sell the loser. To sell the winner for the loser every single time, but in a tight but in a very efficient manner. Yeah.
So Jake,
and then
don't mess this up when you set it up, bro. Don't mess this up, bro.
Oh no, I mean it's easy.
It sounds like a lot of possible errors setting it up.
It's really not that difficult, to be honest. I mean, really, when you're initializing it, you should just be like, this is a community LP. Like, we don't have any intention to remove the LP, so I'm just gonna put the bands really wide so that it can be volatile, and you can always rebalance it later, which is a cool feature of the V3. And so that's really the goal there. Like, we have no intention to remove it.
In that strategy, any?
I'd say that like a coin, like in my opinion, like a coin should have a stable V2, whereas like people who want to get more fees or whatever can do V3. But if you do a wide enough range for V3, I guess it sort of works as a V2.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, my fear is with something that had with setting up something with a protocol that's just launching. The worst thing that could happen would be setting up a V2 and then people want a V3. Now you have the liquidity split between two pools, and then the protocol just loses any type of traction, because in order for Televault to have success, VBells needs to have success, right? And so doing two different pools, to me, is not something that's a viable option.
Right. Like, but like, no, I'm not too sure about this, but like normally like Uniswap and whatnot, like the aggregators kind of just buy like whenever it just calculates like if the price is better on V2 or V3, and it's like the whole like DeFi ecosystem in Ethereum just like aggregates it all together into like one single thing.
Well,
Generally.
if that's the case, then it shouldn't matter, right?
Sure. Aside from the ban, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally not worried. I was gonna set the bans to infinity. That was a screenshot that I took yesterday, anyways. So I'm not too worried about it.
It's
Yeah,
like
that's
this is
pretty
me
cool.
realizing there's a whole aspect here that I know literally nothing about.
Dude, LP is it's like the DeFi farmers who are liquidity providers. It's a whole different game. It's quite painful. It's why I dabbled in it initially during DeFi summer and just left and just been kind of watching it.
I mean, I know guys. I've been on some spaces with guys who this is their whole gig. This is what they do. Is set up pools, and I don't know. They figured it out. Like they know all the stuff we're asking these like level 1 questions. They're at level 10, and they just milk these suckers. I guess I don't know how they do it, but it's like a whole thing.
Yeah, concentrating the liquidity. So if you know that if you know that Bells is going to be range bound, or if you have a feeling it's going to be range bound between, let's just say $1 and $2, then you just set your liquidity there, and that's where you get all like the majority of your profits from, and you can continue to rebalance it later with the revenue that you've earned from the LP.
Yep. Yo, Meme Farm, what's up, man?
What's up, dude? I'm feeling so bullish these days, man. So sadly, I had to go drop off some mail, so I missed like the whole space. I only joined in the beginning, and then I had to go immediately. So, did you already talk about V-Bells a lot?
We're just on that topic right now. The short version is that we've been testing it over the last week and a half. The bridge in process and bridge out process works. There's a few like UX improvements that have to be done, and then I think we're ready to launch it. But ultimately, it's Graham's protocol, so it comes down to when Graham feels comfortable.
I think just from a user perspective, just so everybody knows kind of the way it's going to function is, you can send any amount into an Emblem vault, any amount of Bell, right? So you could send in 100 Bell, 1,000 Bell, 500 Bell. It has to be whole number, so it can't be 100.5 Bell. That won't work. It has to be a whole number. But you're going to send it into the vault, and then put the vault into the bridge, right? And so then you're going to receive the comparable number of tokens, VBEL, on the other side. The thing to be aware of is, so if you put in a vault of 100, say you're going to get 100 VBEL on the other side, right? When you come out, if you come out with that same number of VBEL, you're going to need to swap it for, an exact vault of 100 Bell. So just keep that in mind. If you go, it just creates this, like, it's a little bit quirky in the dynamic, right? In that you're going to need to match up the amount you're leaving with to a vault of that same kind of number, if that makes sense. Just to be aware of kind of how that mechanism works. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's going to
I gotcha.
There's going to be some interesting dynamics to this, just to keep in mind that Televault is not your typical multi-sig bridge where users, like in a typical bridge, right, for like WBTC or something like that, users are sending all of the Bitcoin into a single wallet. That wallet is then basically held by multi-sig, and then they issue a token on the other side. Using Emblem Vault and then Televault, users are sending individual amounts of bells into a vault, which is a Bellscoin wallet, which then is accepted into the bridge. So this is something new and novel. It's never been done before. You could say it's a little bit further decentralized or further, permissionless, or maybe a little bit more trustless. But with that comes different types of trade-offs. And we do have different visions on how to improve this process over time. Some from the Emblem Vault side and some from Graham's side through Televault. But in order to get this out in a quick manner, you can think of this kind of as like the V1 version of it. I would recommend probably if you're going to vault, maybe do it in amounts of thousands, just because the Ethereum gas fees are getting a little high. Like when I was creating a vault, it was like 20 bucks or so. So this, right, with the high Ethereum gas prices, it really kind of cuts out some of the lower amounts of the vaults. But I would say, anywhere between like 1,000 to maybe 5,000, 10,000 at the very most.
Yeah.
Would probably be, sufficient.
Yep. I mean, I think when
Jay, calm down. You don't know what you're doing, but like maybe this is a Moonboy talk, but like let's just imagine like Bellscoin makes it to hundreds of dollars, or say 1,000, and then you're telling me only do votes with 1,000 bells. that would be 1 million. No one is gonna ever unlock them. They're gonna be locked forever in these vaults, bro. But that's your plan all along.
Yeah, dude, we're only pitching to the ETH whales, right?
This is the ETH Wales. This is the East Wales thesis, man. You got to lock in. You got to get that total value vaulted up, man. And we need. So we're encouraging vaults of 10 to 20,000. So get them in there, man.
Yeah, there were some like from the. This is a little bit more technical, but like there's some things that Graham could do from his side, in terms of like putting limits on the amount that can be vaulted. Right now, you're going to have to vault through the Emblem.vision website and then go to Televault to bridge it over. But in the, near future, maybe in the next month or two, you could just mint and vault it all in one transaction on Televault. There's a process of building it that takes a little while. There's some other cool things we could do with like smart wallets in the future, to simplify the process and create it frictionless. But ultimately, this is day one.
The question is Inu gonna put any liquidity in the pool, man? Are you gonna go in there and use your deep liquidity pool knowledge to rug the pool, or what, man? What's the strategy?
No, I'll definitely help supply some LP.
Awesome.
We got him, boys. We got him.
Hey, he said not if it's a V3 though. He even DM'd me on Discord. It's like, what are you doing?
No, actually, what I would see is like it's probably good to have a very long standing V2 and then the V3s, because the V2 the LPs that are normally locked are all V2, because in V3 I don't really think you lock them.
No, you just rebalance them over time.
Yeah, but rebalancing is glorified taking LP out and putting LP back in. So there's no rebalancing. It's actually taking it out and putting it back in. And it could be in one single transaction, but that means that you can't actually lock the LP. From my understanding, I might be wrong because I'm not too well versed in it. Whereas people for example, if I were to open an LP, I'd probably open a V3. Because of my own strategies, which would be more for myself than the market, if that makes sense.
And I'm wondering, would we want to? I mean, yes, we're going to support this, but to lock it, in case something happens, or you need to pull it out, or you have to pull it out. I mean, I don't understand necessarily why we would want to lock it.
That was generally when people are locking it, right? It's like an unknown team, right? The token just launched. You want to ensure that it's locked so that you don't rug the entire liquidity pool and it goes to zero.
Right.
I mean, for us, it's Emblem and Televault. Us removing the LP basically rugs the entire protocol.
Right. So that doesn't. So I don't even think there's a need to lock. In our case.
No,
I get.
I don't think you need to lock it either. Because these coins, they're not on anything except for for example, Solana or something like that. So if you take that out, no one can trade it at all.
Mm-hmm.
But Bellscoin has been trading on multiple platforms for a long ass time. So I don't think it matters too much.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the arbitrage opportunities that presents itself. The liquidity pool definitely need to grow to probably 6 to 7 figures, but then seeing people arbit between these different exchanges and ETH will be interesting to see.
One thing is actually people. So I don't know I don't know like how or why the space likes like very, very thick liquidity pools, but actually like there's a certain point of the liquidity pool where like it's actually pretty bad for the coin. Like the liquidity, like because like the whole pre-sale thing and like, oh, we're gonna take 50%, we're gonna put it into LP, DR 50%, we're gonna sell it, we're gonna like fucking make thick ass liquidity pool. Like it's actually not good. It's not good because like the price is too stable. So you can see like, for example, and we all remember like, I don't know if we all remember, but remember Slurf or like Small and stuff like that. Like now they're kind of dead and no one really wants to trade them because the shit is locked and it's got 50 million in liquidity pool. And like to move it by 2%, you'd have to put in like $1 million. Like no one wants that, right? Yeah. So like what and so normally for pump fund coins on Solana, the liquidity pool is generally around like 1% of the market cap. So like 100 million market cap is like 1 million what's called 1 million like in
FTV.
$1 million, yeah. And what's crazy is like we like because I trade meme coins on Solana. What's crazy is like recently for very, very long time, like I guess or I like ever since like around April or May or something like that, the liquidity has been going down from like, and it's like it's different for multiple pools, which I'm not like I haven't figured out why, but some of the pools are even down to like 0.1% or like 0.25% of the total supply. So if you know like smoking chicken fish and stuff like that, the Church of Smoking Chicken Fish, SCF right now is 103. Okay, so it's 104 million market cap and it's 3 million liquidity. But like at one point it was around like, which is like 3%. But at one point it was like freaking 0.2%.
Wow.
And I remember this because I was like,
you can exit like a couple $100 and then you can.
Right, exactly. Now
Yeah.
the thing is with thick liquidity pools, it is great for exiting and it's great for people trying to find exit liquidity because the liquidity pool is your exit liquidity, right? Yeah. But the thin liquidity pools is actually good for like pumping the price.
Interesting.
Now, you know, we're not, I'm not talking about price manipulation. I'm just talking about math, right? But but like a lot of the meme, it's crazy because a lot of the meme coins that you see that is like pumping really hard, generally on like Dex Screener and stuff. If you look at the liquidity pool, it's like 10 million market cap. You put $10,000 in, then the shit goes to 1.2 million. It's like, you know,
that's interesting. Like, I hadn't heard that before. That's really cool. That's really good to know.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So basically, what you're saying is it's going to be fun time in the beginning.
Bro, I say we keep the liquidity pool. Okay, man.
It's like we get like I would say don't try to like make it too thick. Like I don't know why people like think thick liquidity pool is like good, but like a good balance of it is good. And if it's too high, then it's like not attractive because the volatility is less. Yep. If it's too low, then it's not attractive as well because like there's too much slippage. Yep. So there's like a balance in there that's to be found.
Interesting. And it gets to the point too of, you know, early, even early pump.fun, they initially went with like a liquidity pool, which is like 110K or something like that. And it didn't really work until they dropped it to whatever it is, 69K or whatever. That was kind of the sweet spot, it seemed like, to allow that, you know, a real pump to happen after launch.
Yeah, on this side though, you're doing it with a token that or a coin that's already at $60 million market cap, right? So trying to figure out what that sweet spot is. I would say, you know, really 50 to 100K is probably efficient. Yep. But we'll see. Yeah, maybe whales come in and they're like, hey, I just want to take bells to, again, there's this whole world of DeFi on Ethereum where you could take your bells to Aave or Synthetics or some of these other exchanges to go use it as collateral, which, something miners may be interested in.
Yeah, one of the other things is like if people kind of want to like sell bells or like sell bells without really impacting the price, like they would put a liquidity pool, because like it would be selling bells DCA up as people buy. It's kind of like worse than actually holding, but and then selling, but for like whales or whatnot, by doing that, it doesn't have price impact. It's kind of like a conversion, if that makes sense.
Oh, that's
Whale, you hear the whale hack right there, man. That's for all the whales in the audience.
There's so many like
Interesting.
crazy, like not crazy, but there's so many like under the hood shit with LPs that like I was looking at back in like first or second quarter of this year. It's crazy.
Yeah, I remember initially, maybe this is the last point of this topic, but when people were launching new tokens, you'd like put a lot of the in the LP so that when it pumped initially, you got paid out basically in Ethereum. And even though it was like 50% because in permanent loss, ruggers already knew that they weren't gonna they weren't going to continue pursuing the coin in terms of building, so they just basically got paid out 50% of whatever the perceived market value is in Ethereum. There's all kinds of different stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Few other Bellscoin notes that I had here. This one was actually an exchange listing that I saw from Bitcon, who claims to be the crypto broker of Binance and OKX. I don't even know what the hell that means, but
nobody knows. I have no idea what that meant. I don't know. No idea.
Bullish, I guess.
Semi-bullish. I don't know. People got excited about it. They're like, they're the broker. I'm like, what does that mean? They trade between them? I have no idea, bro. No idea. Literally, you just realize there's so many of these exchanges. It's crazy. All these small exchanges. I mean, now I've peeked behind the curtain. I see the model, right? The model is, dude, every new coin, we reach out. We try to get them to pay anywhere from 20 to 600K to get listed on our exchange. And, but eventually, like there are these ton of these smaller exchanges, which they'll just list now. My standard answer to most of these small ones is no. And they're like, come on, man, you can do it. Just give us 20K. I'm like, no. And then eventually they're like, okay, we'll list it. So we'll see. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more of these.
Guys, I'd love to ramble on for a quick second for everyone who wants to provide liquidity, because I had one good experience with it, and it's all about long term, I believe. But with like an asset like Bellscoin, which can be very volatile, and I think it might outperform Ethereum by quite a lot. I think what you would need to do is to to provide liquidity at the peaks shortly before it dumps, because then you will earn so much bells, and you will be happy when it dumps, because your bell back will grow passively, and maybe over time you will have gains in both bells and Ethereum. Like it could theoretically be possible if you hold it for years, maybe if the bull run is way too bearish.
That is the bellish play right there, man. The multi-year, multi-cycle bell hold, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
We'll test it. We'll put it in some time lock vaults and really test your, test your devotion to it. Some other liquidity's actually been entering the Bellscoin ecosystem. I saw somebody had bought like 3 or 4% of the Nook supply.
Crazy, man.
I don't know if it's just somebody who's trying to like get attention to like things in the Bells ecosystem, or they're just like actually very nookish, I guess.
Could be a Nook whale who's just buying from himself. I mean, the way this stuff works. Just trying to get attention to Nook. Could be somebody just owning 3.
Somebody made the offer, so somebody had to buy it, and one guy took it for the team, and I'm so proud of him.
65K.
65K bell. Oh, yeah. I don't know. For me, look, it could be a great trade. I have no idea, but it just seems like 64,000 bell, man. I don't know. I wouldn't want to miss the Bell run. You know, I don't know, but maybe the Nook run is, you know, exponentially bigger, right? We've talked about this a bunch of times, and I think Nook has gone up, you know, 2 or 3x in the last week or so.
There's 12,212 holders for Nook,
which is really low, right? I think it was like, I remember you commenting, Jake, maybe a few months ago, like, wow, that's a terrible distribution, right?
It was
like,
quite bad in the beginning.
Like
it was
something at the beginning, yeah.
It was like because it took 100 million mints and there was like 2,000 holders or something like that. I was like, oh my god, that is terrible. Maybe it was just like a bug or something that Ordinal's wallet was displaying, but I was like, oh man, I regret minting these.
We did have one other listing at bit.com listed bells as well. I did a space with them, what was it, yesterday, in their Telegram, and I'm doing a Chinese space tomorrow, so that'll be
a Telegram spaces.
Yeah, Telegram or Telegram AMAs, I guess they call them.
And then the other final thing I saw, which I'd never even heard of, rootdata.com listed bells. And then I saw some people speculating that, what's his name? Mark Yusko was like,
root data is huge. I mean, this is the thing. It's like people are like, you don't know root data, dude? Root data is the #1 blah, blah, blah in China. I'm like, I have no idea what the hell this is. But yeah, in root data, you can track, I guess, like who are like the biggest, you know, supporter followers or whatever. Somehow they track people's, you know, interactions on fucking X or whatever. And yeah, so like the biggest interactions were, #1 was like, I don't know, some dude who, what was it? You guys correct me who the hell these people are. I don't even know. One guy was like head of something at Binance, and the other dude was Mark Yusko.
Oh, Jihan Wu was like a big guy. Yeah. He's the guy who created Bitmain.
Okay, Bitmain.
You know, remember him? He's got like one of the greatest crypto memes of all time.
Yeah, yeah. Go fuck yourself, fuck or whatever.
Go fuck your mother if you want to fuck.
Yeah, him and Mark Yusko was in the second spot as Bellscoin. It's probably like Mark. I've talked to Mark, no Mark. So it's probably Mark just liking my tweets or something, or like, you know, I seriously doubt Mark is investing in Bellscoin, but you never know, man.
That Morgan Creek liquidity. Yeah, one note on Jihan Wu. I don't know if people remember, but he almost blew up Bitmain at one point. He had to get bailed out. And sold. It was a long time ago. I don't know. Maybe Chris, do you remember what happened with Jihan at the time?
I think the two founders had a feud over who was going to control the company, and then they split. And then now he has, I think it's like Deer mining in it's like another huge mining operation, but he heads it up. But I'm pretty sure they had a massive falling out between basically who was going to run the company.
I think this was like this
was like the most powerful company in the crypto industry at the time. So this was like a huge deal.
I think they still are, man.
Yeah. I think it was like right after the Bitcoin Cash Wars, because I think it was like Jihan like took Roger Verify or something like that. Something like that. I don't know. Can't remember.
But yeah, that was when the mining infrastructure was the biggest. Binance wasn't even really on the map, and the mining were like the behemoths of the industry. So it was massive fallout.
Just make sure he's mining bells.
Bro.
Mining bells. Chris, do you have any thoughts on Bellscoin in the conversation? Are you bellish?
Yeah, I love what the Bellscoin community is doing. It's one of my favorite communities in crypto. Just to see the growth from basically 0 to 1 is truly incredible. I think like the narrative is fantastic. It's filling that niche of kind of a really flexible and modular, almost like proof of work layer 1. And I think that's like a massive gap that needs to be filled in the industry. And I think that it's like on the right track to really kind of cover all of those bases.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited to see what happens here. Crazy, it's not even been a year yet. I think we got 2 months until a year from when he relaunched.
Adam has been through the ringer for Bells. He was like a scammer. He was a grifter. Now he's
it's a scam in crypto until it works, bro.
And then like, you're still a scammer because you didn't tell them about it early enough. Okay, you should have told them earlier.
You should have told them early enough. And it's
that's where we're at. But I think you graduated from the scammer grifter. Now I think that you're back to neutral ground. So congrats, Adam. Welcome back.
Amazing.
Made it back. Bells, we're going to $2 and then $4,000 million after that.
When so I guess Televault.
When Bell's ETF. When Bell's ETF.
Dude, the so Televault, just to give an update or just to tell when we think. I mean, are we thinking Graham is going to have something ready, to launch in the next by end of week? We're thinking.
I want to launch it now, to be honest, but
I know you're confident, but
yeah, I asked him today. It looks like that from our side, there's a few updates that we're pushing today. And then once he has that integrated, then I think Adam needs to make a tutorial video. Although I've made a few as well.
I've made a bunch. They're just waiting.
Yeah, waiting in the hopper. And then I think we're gonna reach out. I'm gonna reach out to some of the LP people who wanted to LP, and hopefully they LP and don't just share the contract address with everyone. But if that happens, then I guess it's live whenever that happens.
I've been saying to Jake, it's like I see guys who are lurking in the Bells Discord, where's the contract? Where's the contract? And my mind immediately goes to dudes like Inu who are gonna be just go in there and fuck it up, just drain the liquidity or whatever, man. So. Yeah, I get it. It's funny, man.
I would say hopefully next week, to be honest, would be I think from the Emblem side, we've basically pushed everything, or we'll have everything pushed today. Then it just comes down to him.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Yeah. And then we're ready, right? Should we start pumping the Bells price straight to $2?
Great, bro.
Yeah. The one final thing here is once V-Bells is live, it'll probably be a community effort to, get V-Bells listed on CoinGecko, get it listed on all these bridging platforms, get it listed on, the DeFi exchange or DeFi platforms like Aave and stuff like that. That'll be really when you push the message, not even just from a price standpoint, but just getting that exposure of having it listed on these kind of Ethereum DeFi things will get these whales interested. And then that's when they basically just market buy it on Ethereum.
Amazing.
Do we know how many bells are vaulted right now on Emblem Vault?
5,000, because I vaulted 5,000.
In total?
Oh no, there's 5,000 V-Bells. I would say there's probably maybe 10 to 20,000 bells that are in vaults currently. You could go vault them now. You just won't be able to. Yeah, here's the thing. If you're interested in LPing or if you want to go V-Bells, you could go to emblem.vision. There's a tutorial video.
I'll DM you. Should I put out that video? I mean, should I put out?
Well, there's you could show them the how to vault bells.
I'll put them in just in the next hour or so. I'll put that out on my Twitter. Just how to vault bells into Emblem vaults. It's really easy. It takes 30 seconds. So I'll post that in the next hour or so.
Yeah, get those ready. I would say over the weekend when gas is low, right? When it's under 10, right? It's maybe $10 or so. But once it gets over, it starts to get a little bit expensive. But from the Emblem side, we spent a little bit extra and we vaulted a bunch of 250 and 500 vaults. And I figure most people are probably going to do in the thousands, but we'll see. And then we'll get ready. And then it's game time.
Game time.
Game time.
Do you have any predictions on so right now it's 20K? How much bells will be vaulted after?
Bro, I know you're gonna put in 250,000 bells, right? So that's gonna be fuck up the liquidity pool. You're gonna do some weird fucking hedged fucking strategy play to make you a billionaire over the next 2 weeks. Who knows what the hell's gonna go on in there?
It's tough to know with these things. When we do these product launches, sometimes they'll surprise you. When we did the M-Bells vault pad thing, we thought that was going to take months to mint out. It took 6 hours to mint 10,000 vaults. Sometimes we've launched other products where the interest is really high and then the participation ends up being really low. I don't think this will be that case. Just because there's actual liquidity and stuff on the other side, and there isn't really many other places to get bells at this time unless you're mining it. There's 2 exchanges. My guess, maybe by the end, within 5 days of launch, I'll say maybe 50,000 to 100,000 bells would be the goal. Could be different though. I mean, I've had 2 or 3 different people hit me up that say that they wanted to LP between, you know, $10,000 to $25,000. You know, how many of those people actually show up is a bigger question. And then there's always lurkers as well.
Yeah, I wonder because like there's no, you still can't really market buy a lot of bells right now without significantly affecting the price.
Totally.
Like probably just gonna be really interesting.
Yeah,
So we're gonna see like if we're gonna see like bells at like $2 on Ethereum and be like, oh, we can like go and sell there, but like, where the fuck do we buy it?
Yeah.
It's just like
Exactly.
there's none.
None to buy, bro. What happens when there's none to buy and people want it? What happens to price, bro?
Going to zero.
Going to zero.
All right, boys, we're gonna, and fellas, ladies and gentlemen, everyone who's in the crowd, we're gonna wrap it up today. Fun conversation. Counterparty 2.0 is live. Fair minting. Go ahead and mint some mints over with what Dan is doing. Go explore Counterparty, just as everyone is. Counterparty 2.0 is very bullish. And then Bells. It's one of the few coins today that's up while the whole entire market is red. V-Bells is coming. 150. Would you guys raise $150,000 in bells for exchange listings?
Yep.
So that's coming. Opcat, ZK proofs are coming. Like all kinds of crazy stuff. Apparently, the rumor is if you missed the beginning of the show, Opcat's supposed to go live in January on bells. And what does that mean? I don't really know. I'm still kind of learning. every time I go into these Opcat conversations, it's like the things that you can do and the things you can't do seems to increase. It's like I thought Opcat was going to change everything. Then it's like, no, you can't. Like I don't know.
We got to see the app. We got to see the apps built. But the idea that it can play across all these chains is very, very enticing. That's for sure.
Fuck yeah. Yar to the moon. Everyone who enjoyed the conversation, please follow the Emblem account so that you can stay in tune with Counterparty 2.0, with the bells, with V-Bells. Next week, we're hosting a Doginal space, I believe. Doginal's talking to somebody from Doginal's community. We host a show Tuesday through Thursday, and we continue to have these market updates. Until then, enjoy your Thursday. Have a good weekend, and follow Adam or the Emblem account. We will post information about V-Bells when that is live. I'll also tell a Vault account. Until then, enjoy the weekend and be safe.